What is up, fam? Thank you so much for joining us today on So Real Sports Talk TV. I am your host, So Real Sunil, and once again, we got the OG legend, Mr. Jose Sanchez. My guy, how was your week? How's your Friday going so far? Thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Oh, always. Anytime I could talk ball, my boy, or anyone, so I'll never say no. Can't say no. Even
I
though
love
you
it.
brought me up too much. Legendary.
Hey man, hey, there's never enough propping up you, Jose, man. You the man, you the myth, you the legend, you one of the guys that have paved the way for us content creators to be on here. So, nothing but respect for you, man. You gotta give respect to the OG. So tip your hat to you, my friend.
Right on.
Well, but let's get started, man. There's actually quite a bit to talk about. Obviously, the combine is going on. I don't know how much you were able to pay attention to it, because I know you got your evenings are booked up. But just from the numbers, right? The wide receivers ran yesterday, and it seemed like I don't know what they're putting in the Gatorade over there. The wide receivers were just like the fastest wide receivers ever in the history of all wide receivers. So either one, the numbers are wrong, or two, these guys are just super fast. But 49ers Twitter went off because everybody got excited about what would one of these burners do, part of this 49ers offense. And obviously the name that a lot of people are tying to the 49ers is Christian Watson because of his relationship with Trey Lance, as well as him just fitting kind of the prototypical 49er type receiver that could block, and then also catch the ball. But his 40 time was very fast, so people got even more excited. So with you, Jose, knowing the team the way that you know it, should the 49ers be targeting a wide receiver? Because most likely one of these top wide receivers they'd have to pick with, their second pick.
I'm personally always of the sense of take best player available in the draft. Don't overthink it. Don't think about need or anything, which, wide receiver is not a need. So, okay, if you have a best player available, that's a wide receiver. That's something to consider. However, I think you could still get a decent receiver later on after that second round pick of, what is it, pick 61, I believe, right?
Yeah.
64, so, whatever it is.
As of now.
Yeah. So I if there's someone like, I gotta have him, then all means, I just feel like there's more priority. And I know it's kind of a little bit of a contradiction here. It's like, okay, best player available, but need. But I just think because you still can get a decent wide receiver later, and especially since you already have Deebo Samuel still needs to get paid. But Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle, hopefully, who becomes more relevant in the passing game. And then John Jennings. So you already have a good core there. I don't think it would be too much worth to invest in a second round pick. Personally, I would just try to see if maybe there's someone worth it on the offensive line, a second round pick, maybe even a corner, even though, a corner gets overblown. But ultimately, I just can't help but think about offensive line too much with early rounds, because you kind of almost need to reach a little bit in a sense, because the offensive line group, like we talked last time, it's, man, do you trust the 49ers, first of all, going offensive line like that? And then you just need more depth in terms of center. How's Mike McGlinchey going to respond? Is Daniel Brunskill? Do you really want to run Daniel Brunskill out there again? Lakeland Tomlinson might be on the way out. There's a lot to unhinge here. But personally, I would rather you wait later and look for someone who's particularly a speed demon, a vertical threat. Because one thing that the 49ers are going to gain this new season with Trey Lance is pushing the ball downfield. That's going to be beautiful to seeing those bombs downfield. And that's not something, not to say Samuel or Kittle or Ayuk can't excel at, but you want someone who that's their specialty. Someone that, like, hey, the defense is going to honor this guy, so let's run him downfield and let's just see what Lance can do and unlock him.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to lean with the way you are thinking, not only because of the weapons that the 49ers have, but also the style of offense that they run. It's not a pass first team. It's always going to be a run first team. But let's talk through, I guess, the thought process, because it is something that's gaining a lot of steam as far as the fan base. And I think a lot of people have saw what Cincinnati did in their draft when they had Joe Burrow, and then they went out, even though they had two good receivers in Higgins and Boyd that they had used, some assets for. and then they had Jamar Chase there, went ahead and took him. And obviously that worked out really, really well for Cincinnati, even though Cincinnati's offensive line was terrible, right? They let Joe Burrow get hit. Obviously, his rookie season-ending injury.
I slandered that draft pick. It was like, how are you going to take Chase and not I don't know, Panay? Were they? No, they could.
Yeah, they could have got Panay. Yeah.
Oh, they could have. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, how are you going to take a wide receiver, not him, and now you're going to let this guy get beat up? Which, you know, it's you kind of got wrong. You kind of got proven wrong if you took that side like me.
Right.
But it's also like, hey, you were the most sacked player, and that's kind of why you lost the Super Bowl.
So let's talk about it though, because obviously a lot of people are looking. You know, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, LSU teammates had a lot of chemistry that transitioned very, very well into the NFL. People are looking at Trey Lance, Christian Watson. Them two also have a lot of chemistry. People are trying to recreate, you know, it's a copycat league. So people are seeing that. Do you see, you know, with Christian Watson having the type of combine that he's had, obviously he's had a very good Senior Bowl. You know, he is obviously playing, you know, NDSU, which is not the same caliber as LSU and the same national championship pedigree that Jamar Chase was with. But is there anything behind that? Should the 49ers at least discuss bringing in a guy like Watson and maybe elevating that ceiling for a guy like Trey, seeing what happened with Burrow and Chase?
No, because I don't think you're a Bengals offense that is that has the same efficiency with your play caller, and that's Kyle Shanahan, who can probably make up for that connection of Christian Watson. You know, I don't think they're really pertinent or very rely upon so much an elite talent like that. You don't really need to be just like that. And you know, the Bengals, that, you know, that's a different story. Like, you're right. They both are like Burrow and Chase are definitely like tiers above what Lance and Watson can be. But to me, it's just, I don't think you can you can take that second round dive or third round dive on Christian Watson. Maybe if it's later, maybe it's a fourth, or maybe even one of those compensatory picks in the third round, since I think they are supposed to be at the end of the round anyways. But I just can't do it, because, you know, you're already set at that position. You look good there. Why not just have Lance have that connection? I mean, he already has that connection with Ayuk from what I saw in the limited games and even dating back to training camp. And now he needs to get that with Debo. He needs to get that with Kittle. He needs to get that with Jennings and other players. Watson, you know, it can never totally obviously hurt putting him in. But I just don't see it. I just don't see the 49ers actually pulling that trigger, and nor would I actually care for that move if the 49ers is something I would support. You're just better off just investing in the offensive line, because what's good as a wide receiver if you're going to be under pressure the whole time? I know Lance can move, but hey, I mean, we just saw the best of both worlds with the Bengals, where it's like, great, our lows are lows with getting pressured and sacked, but man, we can really see this guy light it up with Chase. So to me, it's like, it's great in theory. It wouldn't be bad, but I'd rather I'm always going to be first, build in the trends and solidify that first, especially when you're already good in the skill position, especially when you have a play caller like Kyle Shanahan, who can pretty much get you a similar connection with Watson with all the other guys.
Yeah. Swan Song, thanks for joining in, my guy. Really don't care about the Bengals parallel, just a cool story. Yeah, I mean, it is a story. It's all over the place.
That was a magical run.
Yeah, absolutely. Dusty Gold, Watson's moving up. Yeah, I mean, all of this could be moot. I think for the most part, 49ers fans are mainly just focused on Christian Watson. It's either him or, you know, kind of think a lot of people would feel like any other player with that second round pick would be, you know, not the best pick. But I think people are just excited about, like we talked about, that Bengals, what the Bengals did, and then just the relationship with Christian Watson, playing in a run-first offense, you know, being good at blocking, and then obviously the combine numbers he put out. I think he ranked as the most, one of the most athletic receivers in the draft in this combine. So, you know, obviously combine numbers, Jose, everybody looks like amazing.
Hey, wasn't the wide receivers like the first one that got announced? Weren't they kind of like, they were unofficial, and the NFL like at 8:00 at night our time pretty much cleared it up, like, oh, hey guys, some of these are kind of off a little bit.
Yeah, they were all a little bit slower, but even, you know, but they were still pretty fast. But I did some research, Jose, after looking at all of these numbers. I was like, wow, you know, a lot of people are super excited about how fast these receivers are. And then I looked up the top 10 receivers from this last year. only 2 ran a sub 4.40, right? It was actually Jamar Chase and Tyreek Hill. Everybody else was 4.4 and slower, including Debo and Cooper Kupp. All these guys, they're running. They didn't run as fast, so maybe everybody tries to correlate what like that 4.4 speed is to actually being in the NFL and how great that could be. That was the old like Raiders thing, like Al Davis, the fastest 40 was the receiver they're going to take. But when you actually see it transition to the NFL, it's not necessarily a good indicator of how well they're going to play in the NFL.
And you got options of vertical over threat too. So I mean, the fact that you just said right now, what is like there was like 6 to 12. I'm just giving a wide range, 6 to 12 receivers who broke that speed. So I was like, hey, you got options, and not all of them are going to go in the first few rounds. So I mean, hey, you can get that guy, just be your specific vertical threat, and boom, that's pretty much all you need to take the offense to a new height.
Right. And if you can't run routes, what good is just straight down the line speed, because somebody's going to hit you before you could get to your full speed anyways. So, yeah, I mean, it is fun to talk about, obviously, but I'm with you. I think the 49ers are in a position where they could go best player available. However, I think they have like best player available with a few positions that are more quote unquote need for the Niners. But some more news came out of the combine as well. We got to hear from John Lynch for the first time this offseason, and he had some quotables. He spoke a little bit about the Jimmy Garoppolo situation. He spoke on Trey Lance. He also spoke on the future of some free agent or some guys that are up for contract extensions like Bosa and Debo. What did you make of the comments from Lynch overall, Jose? What were your biggest takeaways, and what did you read into it after hearing him speak?
Yeah, there wasn't too much of a pull on my end, other than the one thing I noticed when the first question that came out about Garoppolo and his surgery, and this someone asked him, how do you think Garoppolo's situation is and what's going on with the shoulder in terms of a trade, stuff like that. My favorite part of his answer is anytime you have a surgery, it's not a minor deal. Anytime it's the throwing shoulder, I understand the significance, but it's described as a minor surgery, and Jimmy is going to be fine. Like, what? What are you talking about? It's a freaking throwing shoulder. He's not going to be ready until 4th of July or mid-July, whatever range you want to call it. Yeah. So basically, if you're a team, whoever he's going to be on, he's not going to be ready until training camp. That's nuts.
Right.
So, I mean, he's over here trying to salvage it, but it's even funny, too, because who said it was minor? Oh, Adam Schefter, when he first reported it, said like, oh, yeah, that's not expected to have any implications on trade value. Yes, it is. What are you talking about, man? So just the desperation and trying to get him into really try to, damage control, which, this definitely came from Jimmy Garoppolo's camp of how it got leaked for whatever reason is. Maybe he's trying to get cut. I don't know. We can talk about that later. But it's kind of funny to me that how much he's trying, because John is not so much good at that. He's so much of a genuine person. I don't think he has too much of a lying bone in his body. Right. That's why there was someone who ran a thread on Twitter where John Lynch has a tail when he's doing his ear, pulling his ear and stuff like that. Even when his exit presser, when someone asked him, Matt Barrows asked him about a report by Phil Simms about him going back to TV, and this fool was all fidgety. He grabbed his water immediately. He was playing with it. He went down. Kyle was nodding his head. I mean, these guys, like, body language is their biggest tell, is what I've noticed for the last 3 years. And even the fact that he even confirmed, like, yeah, Amazon did talk to me, or whoever talked to him, and I denied him. So I was like, wow. So, there was truth to it. It was true. Yeah. So the fact that he's trying to do this, you could just see like the way he's just like, he's trying to like talk, but he doesn't really know where he's going with it. So I mean, I can't blame him. You got to do what you got to do to do some soft landing of that news. But I mean, the value is what it is, John. You're not going to be able to fix it with words.
Sure. I mean, I think it was a little bit of a different, I mean, I agree with you, but I did read into it a little bit because, when it came to Jimmy, at least for me, Jose, I always felt like John Lynch was more the guy behind Jimmy Garoppolo. And, and Shanahan was kind of like iffy. He's like, okay, we'll use him, but I think Shanahan was always ready to move on, much more than John Lynch was. And this
Lynch
is the
was the one
first.
that brought him in. Lynch was the one who got that deal done. And Shanahan, I remember Shanahan's even on the record saying like, "Oh, John came to me with this trade." I'm like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "We had the whole day to figure it out." And so I just said, "Screw it, pull the trigger." So I mean, John surprised him. It was like a surprise attack. Hey, I got this deal for a quarterback. And he's like, "I was waiting for Kirk, but okay."
Yeah, and so I mean, this was the first time that I thought he kind of spoke about Jimmy like he's not going to come back and that we're moving on from him. And hearing it from him kind of, I think, puts that exclamation mark that, okay, now we could stop talking about whether or not Jimmy's going to get traded. Are they going to bring him back? All that kind of stuff. It really just seems like they're either going to trade him or cut him, which I think is something that we needed to hear. I think we talked about, or I talked about it on this channel. I don't know if it was with you or somebody else, but I'm like, where's John Lynch and Shanahan coming to defend Trey Lance with all of these people basically like talking him down and saying he's not ready and players don't think he's ready, all that kind of stuff. I was waiting for John Lynch or Shanahan to come out and say, look, Trey's our guy. He's doing exactly what we like, all that kind of stuff, which was what Lynch said, right? We got everything we wanted out of Jimmy, but Trey is everything we expected plus more. He talked a little bit about the footage that came out, which was pretty funny. Like he's like, that wasn't supposed to happen. And yeah, I mean, I think that was more what I talked about. It is finally, okay, the team is acknowledging the passing of the torch as well versus it being speculation from the fan base.
I mean, they did say it indirectly. They leaked all that news to Peter King, Jay Glazer, and then Mayoko. That's the way the Niners talk. You know, they do smoke signals through media. And I think I said that. Now I'm trying to remember whose channel was it. Whether it was no, it wasn't with you. It was for sure with our boy Ben Meyerson last week, where I said this is how they do it. That's their every NFL team or coach or general manager, whatever owner has their own like personal pocket media guy, where everyone or anytime Mayoko says something, you know, he knows a lot, but he's not like. Well, he's the closest one for sure. Matt Mayoka's the closest one, and then you would say Glazer and Peter King, and Peter King became the one I would really key in on because I remember in 2019, my first year covering the Niners, is I would see King like up and close and personal with Kyle, getting like personal interviews. Like, damn, Kyle, give us some love. So I mean, whatever relationship. So anytime King says something a little bit, he's pretty much being the puppet
mouthpiece.
Yeah, the mouthpiece. So that's what the Niners did when that's when all of a sudden after that Lynch news came and Montana news, when me and you talked about it, the Montana news about all that slander and if it's true or not. Shortly after that, that's where they came from. It literally was day one. It was like a Wednesday Glazer or Tuesday Glazer, and literally the next day Peter King, and then all of a sudden Matt Mayoka comes out with his own. So boom, that was their Niners in defense, and they're not just gonna hold a press conference, let's talk, because honestly they don't care. But they do care enough to be like, all right, we'll just talk it through the media. That's the way it kind of do it. It's like the whole like hula hoops, the media smoke signals, I call it, the 49ers are doing.
Yeah. The other big takeaway that I took, Jose, is John Lynch pretty much stating that Nick Bosa and Debo aren't going anywhere. And I think that was kind of a breath of fresh air because we have known the 49ers to be a little bit suspect when it comes to premium talent. Obviously, they traded away DeForest Buckner. When George Kittle was up for his extension, there was, a lot of fidgeting, I guess you could say. I mean, there was talks about trading him. They were going back and forth about the money. But it's good to hear that at least with Bosa and Debo, they're not even going to play around. It looks like it's just going to be about finding the right number that makes sense for both sides and then just signing the dotted line. So I liked hearing that. What did you read anything into that, or was that kind of just you expected it?
No, because I mean, he pretty much said the extra pressure that they budgeted for Debo's extension, and I don't really think Nick Bosa is going to sign an extension because I think he thinks if I'm him, I'm triple downing on myself because you would assume you're going to be healthy and you're going to have another great year, if not better, and then boom, now you can ink out more, and that's what his brother did. I think the Chargers even tried to cheap out and try to do something 2 years before his extension or his contract was done. So, I mean, he still has time. I mean, so one more year is going to add more value, and that behooves him. So the more money you can get. But none of this was really shocking to me. And even if he does say that, I'm not going to 100% be sold on it because, things can change. But I never had a doubt that they weren't going to extend Debo or Nick Bosa this year or next year. I think those are like the automatic locks no matter what.
Got you. And then was there anything else that you heard from Lynch that kind of caught your eye, or anything that you thought was newsworthy or noteworthy?
Uh, no, not really, man. I mean, it's kind of hard for me to really take too much from pressers. I say the only thing that, because since I considered about writing it, there was the words about Chase Sermon, but yeah, we already it's kind of obvious what went wrong with Chase Sermon in a way to some people. But I think the thing that I really liked, I think was his most truthful from the heart answer, was his response on the television deal, about how he mentioned, like, it was like one of the first few sentences, like, oh, I'm a competitor. This is why I got in this business. And as much as we talk to my family, it was all good for me to stay here. So the fact that he said that is like, this guy is all in, and this guy loves football. He knows his playing days is over, obviously, but the fact that he's in the general manager position, I'm sure he still gets the juice. I mean, I wrote in the article about why he chose against going back in the broadcast booth is, number one, it's always going to be there. It's always going to be there no matter what. Number two, you're in the middle of something great, and I'm pretty sure he got like a nice. He watching all the games that the 49ers were in this year, especially towards the end, the Week 18, the Dallas game, the Packers game, and the Rams game, all that feeling, just like, yeah, we're here. Just being that football player, just like, it hypes you up, and like being a former athlete, I can understand where he's coming from in that sense. And I mean, just look how much he gets into it. Remember the Super Bowl when he's trying to call timeout at the final 2 minutes? He's into these games. He feels like he's out there, and he wants to, that's why he's in this. So, and it's not like he's pressed for money, and you kind of figure it out that he's all in. He loves competing, and this is what he's about. So that's good to have. So at least I'd say John Lynch is not going anywhere for at least like the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that this 2-year stretch, at least this offseason, they're going in with the least amount of question marks. You know what I mean? And I think that now, being 6 years into this regime, I guess, what are we, 5 years or 6 years in? This is the 6th offseason, I believe, right? Yeah. 2017. So their 6th offseason, we're starting to finally see this team be put together the way that they wanted to get it put together, right? They've gotten studs at so many different core positions. They finally have their quarterback of the future that's there and ready to start. They were one game away again from a Super Bowl, and they don't have to blow anything up, and they could still get a lot better this offseason. And I think he wants to finish the job, Jesse. You know what I mean? Like, he leaves now, they go out and win in the next couple of years the Super Bowl. He's going to probably be kicking himself and being like, man, that was the team that I built, and I didn't get the ring, And
he's going to look like a genius with if they do that, because Trey Lance is going to be the one that leads it, and he's going to have his fingerprints over Lance. So that's going to even make him look even more of a god.
And I actually like it. I mean, I know Adam Peters is there that a lot of people are excited about going in and, taking over for Lynch. But it would be nice to finally see a Super Bowl with Lynch and Shanahan as the duo. Just because, even from us, man, we've been so hard on them, up and down, right? To actually see them kind of get vindication from critics like us, or even people outside, that have just been bashing them for their decision making. And how much do you think it played a role that the Rams got a ring? Like, maybe if maybe the Rams didn't win, maybe he was like, maybe he'd think, because it's a lot of money, right? I think they were discussing $100 million for Sean Payne. So I'm assuming he probably got, similar type money. I wonder if the Rams got a ring. I can't go out like that, even for, way more money, right? So yeah, that was pretty interesting. I'm glad to see that he's coming back. I want to see what this regime could do, because I finally trust them wholeheartedly. Like, I want them to see what they do this offseason and kind of see how much better they can make the team. But the biggest thing obviously was the Jimmy news, with that injury being there. And I like how you said it. This definitely came from the Jimmy camp, and the reason why is because it's like, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be out having shoulder surgery. He's going to be out for 16 weeks, but it is a minor injury. So it's like, we're going to be out that, you probably shouldn't trade for us right now, but we're still going to be okay. It's not that serious. It's like, I don't want to get to the point where teams are completely out on us, but maybe I think it's probably a play to try to get cut, or, have a little more leverage with the 49ers as far as where he goes.
Yeah, and I think the last time I was on with you a couple weeks ago or so, we talked about what was his value be, and I said I can see no more than a third, and I think I'm even pushing it on that.
Uh-huh.
Now I can't even see a situation where he's traded for any more than a 6th or 5th, and I'm not even sure he's going to get traded anymore because I feel like I'm one of the people who greatly overestimated the overall quarterback market or underestimated the quarterback market because look, you got teams attaching themselves to Mitchell Trubisky, Marcus Mariota.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wouldn't say Jimmy's like significantly better than him, but maybe he's a little. You know what? To me, it's all the same with those guys. If anything, Trubisky and Mariota have bigger upside just because they're more mobile
Mm-hmm. And younger.
Yeah, and younger. So I mean, my God, and we were talking about, oh, there's a monopoly on the market. Jimmy's the best available. Yeah, you know what? No, they're not. No, he's not. So it's because if he was, he would have been traded by now. Someone would have been on him.
Well, I think that usually the trades, at least the framework and stuff, happens a lot during this combine, which is why it was really, really interesting, the timing of the news dropping, right? It happened a day before Lynch was going to go out to the combine and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I do think that there was a trade market. Obviously, Jimmy was being talked up not only by, 49er people, but even just national news. People were looking at him as maybe one of the top quarterbacks. But definitely now Jimmy coming off of an injury, that's already your biggest question mark with him is his health. So now that you can't even really see him throw till training camp, it makes sense why Mitch Trubisky and Mariota and these type of guys are getting more looks now, because if you're already now Jimmy with the injury to me is like a flyer, right? Now you're taking a chance. So if you're going to have to trade assets to take a chance, why would I do that when I could just take a chance with a guy like Mitch Trubisky or a guy
significantly cheaper?
Yeah, that I don't have to risk at least any capital. I'm just paying the salary. So that's pretty interesting to me. Just the timing. But do you think that Jimmy could still get traded, or do you think this is something where now the 49ers are just going to have to cut him to make sure that they get under the cap?
I mean, I think they could still trade him, but like I said, I'm always someone who overestimates in sense of cost and value.
Mm-hmm.
So when I told you I think he's worth a third, I wasn't really thinking he was worth a third. I could see a third. I just didn't think he was going to worth third. Me saying in the same logic, I could see no more than a 5th, but really I think they can get a 6 for him, but that's going to be a conditional 6. It's not even a straight 6, a conditional 6. Why if you're the Steelers, look, there's only 11 teams that have the cap space right now to this day, without moving any restructures right now, that can afford Jimmy Garoppolo. And only a few of them, like the Commanders, I believe, the Steelers, are the ones who need a quarterback that would be willing to take that on. But it's like, all right, you want to take on that contract for a guy who's not going to be ready until training camp? I mean, don't you want Jimmy Garoppolo getting those throws in with Terry McLaurin and OTAs? Don't you want him getting those throws in with Dante Johnson and OTAs? That again, building that rapport, synchronization, that is a thing. The fact that he's just going to trot out there with just some knowledge of the playbook, if not all, that's not enough. You need him to get out there. And so the fact that, just because he says he's going to be ready around July 4th, who's to say he's going to be fully ready by this time training camp starts? So there's a lot of risk factor. If you're a team, it's like, my God, like the only thing I can see, not only am I going to take on that large contract, I mean, so even if the Niners says, okay, we'll take your 6th round pick, is the team going to be like, but at that number, man, you were kind of injury riddled. I mean, you're injury riddled now. Because personally, to me, I didn't see it too much of a dramatic deal until it said he won't be ready until the summer. Because personally, I thought he was already getting surgery on his thumb. I made that assumption wrong. I looked back. I thought Jimmy said he was getting surgery on his thumb, but surgery on his shoulder this time. But same thing. But being out until training camp, that's a huge deal, because now it's like the Niners can't talk themselves out of this. You're a team, you're going to be like, dude, here's a 6, man. Your quarterback's not even ready to training camp. He costs too much. I mean, I think maybe the Jimmy camp knew that a trade was going to be done like this, and it's like, look, man, let's just take this. Let's just go pick our spot by getting cut, because it behooves the 49ers. I mean, they're going to be running out of time, because the Niners have to cut him immediately within 2 weeks. You're not going to be able to keep his salary entering free agency. Then all of a sudden, this dream free agent that we're talking about later is not going to matter,
right?
Because you're not going to have the cap space for it. And even if they, I mean, I know there's that $7.5 million injury guarantee that you cut him, but I believe it's, yeah, there you go. But I believe if he signs anywhere that's more than that, it gets wiped away. So essentially, he's going to sign for more than that. There's no way someone's going to give him less than that. But to me, I feel like if it's not 50-50, I'm leaning more towards he gets cut. I think leaning more towards he gets cut. It's kind of hard to see it now. And to me, it's also like, are the 49ers really going to, stomach a 6th and 7th for Jimmy? Because that kind of looks bad on them, considering, oh, yeah, we won a 1st and a 2nd. And damn, you had to settle for a 6. Right. So that's a whole image thing for him, and for not to totally disrespect Jimmy in that sense, to make him like, hey, we can send you for a 6, because that pretty much tells you how low they think of you, that you were costing a 6th-round pick. Man, I just think that cutting is probably going to be where it's at, considering that they're up against it.
And I can't even be mad at Jimmy for playing it this way, because I think he played it beautifully. Clearly, I don't think money is his primary motivation going into next season. He clearly has proven by letting out the news the way that it is, that he's more interested in going to a team where he wants to go to, where he has a chance to compete for a starting role, and probably a situation that he feels more friendly towards versus what he had to deal with the 49ers the past 4.5 years. I mean, seeing what Kyler Murray's doing over there with Arizona, we really take for granted what class that Jimmy actually handled a very, very difficult situation for a starting quarterback with his type of resume, as far as the type of wins and, how far he was able to take the team when he was healthy. He handled it with class, man. He had a coach that was literally in foreign countries trying to court other quarterbacks while he was their starter, and, flirting with, every free agent quarterback that was there, talking about making trading for quarterbacks. So the fact that he always kept it in-house, he never said anything publicly. Hey, man, this is the time where you got to be selfish. So Jimmy and his team played it beautifully, where now I think you're right. I mean, I would more than likely, even though John Lynch said that there's a lot of people that still want to trade for Jimmy, I think he just has to say that. I see more than likely this is more of a situation where he just gets cut. And hopefully Jimmy gets to go to a team that he likes, because he deserves that. I think he's handled his time here with the 49ers as well as anybody could ask.
Yeah, and ultimately, I don't think, I'm releasing an article today. Like, the 49ers should the 49ers look like they're like they failed, that they cut Garoppolo? And in a sense, yeah, because that was their whole goal a year ago, was we're going to run with Jimmy, we're going to teach Lance, let him learn, and we're going to trade him to raise his value. Well, not only did he not raise his value, you're not going to be able to trade him. But, on the bright side, as long as his contract is off the books, that's all that matters. Because at this point, if all you're going to get for him is a 5th, 6th, or 7th, who cares? Who cares about that pick then? At that point, okay, it means nothing compared to just getting that $27 million cap hit he has off the books, so you can sign some of your own guys and poach maybe a 1 or 2 or 3 really good talents to take your team to another level.
And I don't know if you know these numbers offhand, Jose, but if there is going to be a trade, when does that have to be by?
Well, I mean, they can agree verbally, like, just come to an agreement. It all starts literally when free agency starts, because that's when the league year starts. So if they say Niners today, right now, where's they're speaking, Steelers, Niners agree to a trade, that kicks in March 16th, whatever day free agency kicks in.
So it could be announced anytime then, right?
It can be announced anytime. You can come to an agreement. That's why your point, you said, like, okay, all that mingling in the scouting combine, where I think it becomes a little odd is that, all right, well, I mean, Stafford got traded when the season was still going on. And that was only a month after both teams' seasons ended. So that's the threshold I'm comparing it to. It took over about a month after. It's been already over a month since Garoppolo's season's been over, and there's still nothing. There's still nothing like to hear or anything like that. Not even maybe. I mean, sure, maybe there might have been some little tap on the shoulder with the 49ers and the China shopping, but I mean, the fact that there's nothing like significantly talked about or no direct teams, that says a lot. And that's why I think I'm trending more that he gets cut, especially because like you just asked, like, when does it start? It starts in 2 weeks that they can make it official.
Right.
And not even forget the official part. 2 days before the league starts is the tampering period, right? So that's pretty much when you negotiate and you give these numbers out. So it's pretty much, it's not even at March 16th. it's more like March 14th and 13th, you're going to have to figure it out because you need that money already agreed in principle. It's off. Mm-hmm. So, hey, Stephon Gilmore, we want to sign you. We have the room. And if Jimmy hasn't even agreed in principle, there's no trade, then it's Gilmore's like, all right, where are you getting this money from? Like, screw it, don't play with me. You don't even have it. Right. So that's going to hurt a lot if they don't get him off the books by free agency.
So I know both of us kind of feel like, all right, it's more and more realistic that they cut him. But there are two teams that really have been tied to to Jimmy Garoppolo in the market. It's not like it's been dead. You know what I mean? And you mentioned both of them. One is being the Washington Commanders. Two is being the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both of these teams have talked about wanting more of a veteran quarterback. So if Jimmy does get traded, what would be the best option, do you feel, for Jimmy as far as him going into a situation? And what would be the best situation for the 49ers as far as who would probably be willing to give the most to for a guy like Jimmy?
Yeah, I'm looking at I remember talking with Grant about who exactly they consider, because you see teams like the Giants and Saints get thrown out, but it's like, dude, they're in cap hell, man. I can't even consider them because they got their own issues with that. So without getting too cute and like thinking 8 steps ahead about how they're going to get that cap space for a quarterback they need, I just focus on the quarterbacks. I mean, the teams that has higher cap space. So like you said, the Steelers, the Commanders, the Colts in their weird situation with Carson Wentz. I don't know how it's going to happen, even though I probably wouldn't even think that's reality. Maybe Denver. I think Denver you can actually make a case for. But other than that, I see no one else who can even entertain Jimmy Garoppolo. It's literally just the Steelers, Commanders, and the Broncos. And you got to think, when you're the 49ers, who are you thinking of? You got to take care of the team first. Screw Jimmy. I mean, the fact that it's clear he's taking care of himself first by leaking that out, so the Niners cut him. Okay, well, let's go try to trade him, push him to the team that we think we get the best value. Hey, Washington, what's up? Let's trade you for your 2nd or 3rd round pick now, which I'm not even sure they'd agree to, because it's not like Garoppolo's going to take him over the top, and that depends. If the only reason why they would probably be considered that is because Martin Mayhew, that familiarity, that connection, maybe. But I think you want to push for a Commanders trade because Commanders aren't going to be good. They're not going to be good. Maybe you can get the next year's pick or something like that. Maybe you can take Commanders 3rd or 4th right now and take a 2nd next year. Right. I don't know what else is going to take for you to maybe sweeten the deal to get in more, because I think if you are going to want higher capital than a 4th round pick in either year, you're going to have to throw a kicker, maybe a round pick of your own, maybe a player. I don't know who it is, but that's something I think it's necessary to juice up if you're really so set on getting adequate value in return. I think ultimately you want to go with the Commanders because I just think they're the most team that's going to fail or not have as much success, whereas the Steelers, for obvious reasons, they've never finished less than 500 in Mike Tomlin. So that pick, no matter what his future or now, it's not going to be hefty. And then there goes the Broncos, who has a new head coach, but they've actually had a real good, strong team. It's just their quarterback has been abysmal. And I think they are Jimmy Garoppolo quarterback away from being like a decent team. So ultimately push for the Commanders, see if you can work that angle with Martin Mayhew. Maybe that works. Like, do me a solid. You know him, Martin, please take him off our hands because we know you're going to suck in the future. That'd probably be the best case. This is the best place to send them for the 49ers perspective.
I think also that fits for Jimmy as well, because you look at the other two teams you talked about, that division that Pittsburgh's in, you're playing against the Ravens, Cincinnati's come on. So that's a tough division. Denver, you're playing against Kansas City, the Chargers, the Raiders, all teams that, are close to being playoffs and stuff like that as well. Washington, that NFC East is up for grabs every single year, right? Yeah. So I think that, you look at a team like Washington and they really feel like, hey, we're just one quarterback that they feel confident that could stabilize an offense away from being the champs in this division and making the playoffs. And we've already seen Ron Rivera, take a chance on a guy like Alex Smith coming off of, complete, destroyed leg, and giving him a chance to, be the starter over there over, guys that they had, including the starter that they had this whole season. So I think that, that would be ideal, because I think the 49ers, like you said, probably could get the most out of Washington. I just feel that organization, when you look at Denver, Pittsburgh, and Washington, out of who's the most well run, I would put probably Washington number 3, or right there. Like, I mean, Pittsburgh, I think, is above all 3 of them by far. And then Washington and Denver, I guess it's a coin flip. But like you said, I mean, if they could get maybe even a lower pick, like a 4th or a 5th this season, and then something conditional next season that could earn up to a 2nd, maybe even a 1st if he hits certain playing goals and they make the playoffs, things like that. That would be, I think, the best that the 49ers could ask for at this point, just because there's just no leverage for the 49ers right now. There really can't. There's not too many teams that are probably going to overbid for Jimmy, and there's probably a few teams that are even in contention for trading for him, right?
And remember, Jimmy has a no trade clause, so he kind of also dictates it too in a way. So now he's in.
But isn't that done? Isn't that gone now?
He still has a no. It's for the whole. No trade clause is there, so people kind of forget that too. The Niners can't just trade him anywhere. So to me, when you say it'd be a good fit for the Commanders from Garoppolo, I think Garoppolo would say hell no, not the Commanders, because that team is a dumpster fire. There's so much drama always surrounding them with all their weird stuff with their pathetic owner. But
if you look at it just from football sense, they have really strong running backs, right? And McKissick, I don't know if he's coming back off the injury, but Gibson is a good running back. They have a solid defense, one of the best defensive lines. They have good receivers over there, and a coach that, is a players type coach that has gone behind quarterbacks that are like, had up and down kind of things. He's kind of that type of quarterback. I don't know. I think I might push back a little bit, Jesse. I know the organization has obviously a lot of red flags, but as far as just football and the team itself, that's the worst division in the league. And if Jimmy wants to continue, like you get 6 games a year against teams that could make the playoffs being under 500. I mean, like, I think that you look at the division, Jimmy will still be able to be a contender on a team there versus, Denver and Pittsburgh, where I think it'd be a much harder place making the playoffs consistently.
Yeah, but I don't think you can isolate how the football sense, just the whole team, because players do take that into account 1,000%. And when you're Jimmy coming from a great atmosphere like the 49ers, that's going to come into account and be noticeable, especially since he was teammates with Trent Williams, and Trent Williams has told all of them, and they all know how Washington's run. Now, sure, there might have been some change with Ron Rivera there now, but still, from the tippy top, there's like a lot of stupid stuff going on there. So if you're Jimmy, it's like, like that. And then, like you said, sure, they have like cool running backs. They have, Antonio Gibson, man, that guy gets injured all the time. He's kind of a sneaky injury. And then Terry McLaurin, that's all they have. Terry McLaurin, really, and maybe that tight end they have. Yeah. And that defense got exposed last year, and that's because of Jack Del Rio. Jack Del Rio is stinky. He's not a great coordinator. They got exposed. So I hear you on your points in terms of the division. Yeah, that's true. But, man, there's just no solid ground there, whereas when you go to Pittsburgh, there's always solid ground there. There's nothing wrong with that culture ever. They never waver. Mike Tomlin is a top 5 coach in the league. Their defense always somehow solid. You have a great running back in Najee Harris, the greatest running back of all 3 teams if we're comparing to. And you have some nice array of receivers with Dante Johnson and I don't know if they're re-signing Juju or not. But
Chase is there, so Claypool and Johnson for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, that kind of seems like the most solid ground. I know you said like, oh, you have competition with the Ravens, the Bengals, and the Browns, but even with that, the Steelers were still able to get in, and it's just always, they're always in a good contention. Like AFC North really feels like the real RNG in the same way that you're saying that the NFC East is, because like, hey, where the NFC East is like a lesser, unattractive, a bunch of teams who somehow there's always a random team that makes it. The AFC North is the team that's higher, more attractive, competitive, random teams that always make it. So it's kind of almost the same thing. And I think he would elect for the team that's more proven and more solidified, and especially in a culture standpoint. But what does it matter? He's trying to get cut. He's trying to get cut. He's going to go somewhere else. I think the reason why he's leaking that out is because he knows the Commanders are a logical team to fit. Because, like I said, those are the only 3 teams I would really consider a quarterback who has a clear vacancy. So the fact that he wants to throw that out there and be cut, he wants free choice. So that way you can now all of a sudden I can be considered for the teams that don't have more than $27 million caps. Now I can be considered for that. So I just think the fact that he knows, like, damn, those are my choices. Screw that. Get me out of here. So I think that's
This is the
ultimately
thing
what
that
he wants.
confuses me because I know you said that the no trade clause is there, but if there is a no trade clause,
He can waive it.
But what I'm saying is he's already protected against going to a team that he doesn't want to go to, right? With the no trade clause. So why put out this news?
Because you don't have the options in terms of where he would go to is not the same because of the cap hit he has, $27 million. Where if he gets cut, now he gets full on a range of where he wants to go to, and still instead of taking like a severe pay cut, now he can get a new deal. So maybe he sign like a 2-year, $30-40 million. Because I think right now if he's a free agent, he's getting for sure $20 million.
Yeah,
$20
but
million guaranteed.
What I mean is that with the no trade clause, if he's vetoing every trade that the 49ers can make, they're going to cut him anyways. So that's what I think. This is what I was looking for, because I heard that the no trade clause expires. So it expires on the 16th. So that's because it wouldn't make sense otherwise, because all he's doing now is hurting his market, because they're going to cut him either way.
I have to get him off the books now. That's what I mean. Like, you got to get him off the books now, because by the time our 16th comes, you're kind of screwed. Because free agency starts and you're pretty much like, all right, great. You can't even schedule visits because you still got this guy. Now you have to.
But what I'm saying is on the 16th, that day, regardless of if Jimmy doesn't want to go there or not, they could make the trade and Jimmy can't veto it. So it kind of that makes more sense as far as like as far as Jimmy wanting to dictate.
Yeah, and then it's ultimately like, if Jimmy doesn't want to go there, you think you're going to be a team that wants to take a player that doesn't want to go there? I mean, I think ultimately, even without the trade clause, it's like, hey, we're going to send you Jimmy Garoppolo. Oh, great. Does he want to come here? Nope. What? We want him to come here? What the hell? Like, that's not. I don't think that's going to work either. If a player really doesn't want to go there, especially a quarterback, I don't know why any team would be interested in like that. Especially
I think Jimmy would be happy going anywhere where somebody wants him, because he hasn't been wanted for a long time. So for a team to like give up assets to bring him in, and he gets to keep, that contract, or at least negotiate with that contract as the starting point, I think is a better situation, I would say. But maybe, like you said, maybe the money's not as important. But that's enough Jimmy talk, man. He's not our quarterback anymore. The best part that I liked about, the Shanahan, the Lynch statements from the combine, was that it finally put to rest who the starting quarterback was going to be. I don't think they're going to bring in a Tom Brady. I don't think there's going to be any other quarterbacks really out there that the 49ers are going to be discussing. Seems like it's Trey area now. It's Trey season. We could talk about that. So now that we know Trey Lance is going to be the starter this upcoming season. Yes, we do. Stop. You stop it, Jose. Brady. Trey Lance. No. Tom Brady, you need 5 first-round picks to get him. Bruce Arians already said that. So we don't even have 5 first-round picks to be able to give for that. So Trey Lance is going to be the starter. So now that we know this, Jose, how does this affect, or how should this affect the way that the 49ers approach this offseason, going into free agency, and obviously the draft as well?
Yeah, you got to do a full send on catering to all his needs and all his skill sets to bring those up and make them into the light as best as humanly possibly as you can, because you want to do what you can do to make sure his rookie hiccups are as minimal as possible, because I'm still expecting that to come through. It's just how much can you keep that from trickling up, from snowballing and being more consistent throughout the year. That's why I'm saying they need to get Jimmy Garoppolo off the books ASAP, because in terms of free agency, you're not going to be able to grab another nice wide receiver or whoever else you want to get. You want to improve your offensive line, because now you're not really helping your rookie out by keeping that contract on. And the same thing with the draft. That's why when we talked earlier about, all right, should they target, early on a 2nd or 3rd round pick for a wide receiver? No, solidify the offensive line, because, you have Trent Williams, who's like your constant, but he's getting up there in age. You never know when the drop off is going to happen. And then again, McGlinchey, right? Pretty much that whole offensive line, you can have a mini or a large question mark in every single position. And that's ultimately what's going to be the most important for him, number one, because right now they're pretty much going to have all their skill guys locked in. Kittle's locked in. Debo's about to get locked in. Ayuk's already locked in, and then Elijah Mitchell, and then maybe Mostert in the backfield. Who knows? But I think ultimately you're kind of solid in that standpoint. It's just maybe adding whatever skill position you can to give you another larger array of point of attack. So now you have so many options for Trey to excel. But ultimately, I think it's going to be where you go with the offensive line, because Kyle Shanahan really emphasized on Trey Lance. He wants him to not be so much of a run-first quarterback. He wants him to, matriculate in the pocket, mess around down there, be more structured, and then if nothing's there, make magic with your feet. But he can't do that if there's no decent offensive line on there. So, I mean, you got to look at Tomlinson, who might leave. And then obviously center, no matter what, whether Alex Max to retire or not, you're going to have to look somewhere, probably in the draft, probably free, wherever you're looking at. So that's ultimately where I think you got to look for is no matter what. And this would be the same thing even with Garoppolo as a quarterback. Whoever's the quarterback next year, you got to fix the offensive line no matter what. But
first off,
if you start there, then everything else works well.
There's no other discussion about who the starting quarterback is. It's Trey. So we'll just stop you right there. James Coop said on another show talked about his tin hat. He had this conspiracy theory that Lynch just said about a new offense around Trey, right? With all these new coaches coming in the offense, it gives a chance to really shake up what this offense looks like. I don't know how different it's going to look. I think it's going to have some pretty nice wrinkles with more deep balls and things like that, because Trey likes throwing those and isn't afraid to throw those balls. But I do agree with you. I think that this focus has to be very it has to be focused, and it has to be focused on making sure that the positions that need to be upgraded or at least solidified are in that way. And it starts with the offensive line, making sure that they bring in guys that can not only pass protect, but make sure that run zone scheme is at its fullest, right? Because there were moments earlier on in the season, Jose, where the running game wasn't where it needed to be. And, in 2019, that running game was all the way peaked at, number 2, right behind Baltimore. I think this year it ended up finishing around 7th. We need that rushing attack to be top 5, top 3. And I think that starts with, 1, making sure that the offensive line is as potent as it needs to be. Number 2, with Bobby Turner taking a year off to take care of health issues, I don't know how confident they're going to be in drafting a person, because that was really Bobby Turner's kind of role, was finding the right talent through the draft. So that kind of makes me believe that maybe they'll go after some veterans. But, they usually carry 4 running backs. Obviously, we know Mitchell's going to be there. Trey Sermon's going to be there. So that's 2 other spots. I think it's very, very important that they find guys that could fit the scheme, that could stay available. Because I know a lot of people are excited about Mostert, and I would love to have him there. But we can't have a similar situation like last season where all of a sudden they're pulling in a Trent Cannon or guys that were sitting on the couch to kind of come in here.
All the running backs were down at one point.
Right, exactly. And even, Jeff Wilson and Hasty, they were nicked up here and there. So I think those are the 2 aspects that I really want to see them secure, is the offensive line and that running back room, 1, 2. And then the next thing is that backup quarterback position. I think they need to bring in a veteran that could be a mentor and also spell Trey if he ever does get nicked up for a couple games here and there. But have somebody like I like maybe a guy like who's the guy that was just with Houston right now? I don't know. I'm blanking.
Running. Oh, Tyrod Taylor.
Tyrod Taylor, I think, would be a good option. Even a guy like Jacoby Brissett, I know people have always kind of been up there, but I think he'd fit perfectly as a guy that could back up. Yeah, solid backup, a guy that's already been in the role with Miami to kind of be that mentor for a young quarterback that has played in a run-first offense with Indy before. I think that's the 3 things that I really want to see them do this offseason to really give Trey the best chance: offensive line, running back room, backup quarterback.
Or they could always just keep Garoppolo and he could be the backup.
No, please, no more Garoppolo, Trey Lance drama, man. I know they're friends and all that kind of stuff, but
did you hear Aaron Rodgers could be traded? The Niners could get him. He grew up a Niners fan. Did you know that too?
Bro, what is with all of these great quarterbacks all being Niners fans, right? And for some reason, they just
Well, I
never
mean, they all
get
were from California, you know. I mean,
right,
this fool Rogers Chico. I mean, Brady San Mateo boy like me around here in the
right.
peninsula. So I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, man.
It just means
So
goats come from California. That's
that's
it.
true. That's true. Or they play in California, which is what Trey Lance is gonna end up becoming, right? So let's keep it on free agency, right? So the one thing about this going into this free agency with the 49ers, Jesse, it's a little bit of a different situation where there hasn't been like this big weakness that has been in like previous years, right? Last year, the secondary was really something that people were worried about. In previous years, offensive line, defensive line, things of that nature. For the most part, like you mentioned, a lot of the positions needs are already under contract and they have really great talent at. So the 49ers can be kind of more picky and choosy and go after depth or splurge for a player because they have, so much depth and, talent in places of need. So let's talk about that luxury, that splurging aspect of what the 49ers can go out there and maybe get, right? So in your estimation, noticing what the lay of free agency is, who's somebody that you're looking at that the 49ers could eye that they can, if they are going to spend, some money on a free agent that you would like to see them spend and bring in?
Man, I think that's more of a dream scenario than anything because the Niners aren't usually a one to go for the top, coveted free
Look,
agent.
man, we're doing this just as a thought experiment. We don't gotta be realistic. Let's just be
I'm
having
too.
some fun.
Hey,
All
your
right?
name is so real,
Let's have some fun.
All
Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun, bro. Let's have some
right,
fun.
then they're gonna splurge on you. They're gonna sign you. They're gonna splurge on you. They want you on the sideline. You're the secret.
Yo,
They need the Mr. Clean look on the sideline.
hey, you just gotta throw me 2-3 milli. I'll do it, bro. I'll go for 2-3 mil. That's all I need to sit there and look pretty on the sideline.
All right. No. I was close to saying Stephon Gilmore, being a corner guy myself, and I'm biased, but I can't deny that, pass rush is probably better than pass rush is probably better than a secondary at this point. I mean, I want to stay true to my roots so bad, but I really think it would be sweet to see Chandler Jones opposite of Nick Bosa. You know how sick that would be? I mean,
Super.
they had freaking D Ford opposite of Nick Bosa in 2019. And how did that help? That they were one of, of course you had DeForest Buckner in the middle too, but I mean, shoot, you have two dominant edge rushers. My God, you can start Ambry Thomas or Josh Norman for all you care. As long as they're not getting penalties, it's going to be good. Right. I mean, I just imagine you could probably start flirting with kicking Nick Bosa inside, or maybe does Jones has familiarity of just kicking a little bit inside? I mean, whatever. I think they can do it either way. Mm-hmm. It can just be a couple snaps a game for all that matters, just to throw the team off, and you can overload them on one side. Just imagine that. Armstead, Kim. Oh my God, that's filthy. That would be the most sweet situation in there because that would be the most sweet situation to have. Because I just can't think of too much 2019. I mean, when Ford is not, because of Ford's injury proneness, my God, you can never see. Now it just isolates Nick Bosa. That's why, especially when Ford went out, what was it, like week 5? And then we never saw him again.
Right.
Bosa stopped being dominant again because mainly they were able to double team him, proficiently so much. And then eventually he just elevated and got accustomed to it. Now this guy's being double teams. I mean, he was the most double team edge rusher in the game. So the fact he was able to get 15 sacks and that many pressures that he did, it was phenomenal. Now imagine having Chandler Jones. Now you kind of are screwed offenses. And then you have Kinlaw back. And then imagine with Eric Armstead gets to stay inside more. And now it's 2019 all over again, if not maybe better. And now, man, and you can allow time for Ambry Thomas to get a little better. By the time midseason rolls around, maybe he starts really become a solid corner. God, that to me is just pass. No offense is going to want that. And to me, you need those pass rushers when you're going up against Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, and Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's somebody that is who I would want. I think Chandler Jones would be amazing fit. And to finally have two just edge rushers that are elite, I think would be amazing. And not only I like that idea, not only because of what Chandler Jones could bring to the team, but it weakens a rival in Arizona. and he's already familiar with this division. So he already knows the offensive lines that he's going to be playing. He already knows the offenses that he's going to be playing, the quarterbacks that he's going to be playing. So I think that would be perfect.
I think he hates the Cardinals too, because didn't he try to get traded or cut last year?
Yeah, I don't think he likes the way that they handled his contract situation and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to throw you some bail, my guy. I know you over here scared to say cornerback because that's your position, but I think there's a corner that they should go out and get. There was a report out today that the Patriots aren't going to franchise tag J.C. Jackson. So if we're going to go out there and splurge on a corner, why not splurge on one of the top corners, shutdown corners in the league right now in J.C. Jackson? And this is why I think it would make sense for the 49ers. I think that I saw somebody put up that the last, I think, 5 Super Bowl champions or something like that have all had a cornerback that has ranked in the top 5 or something like that as far as cornerback rankings. And even though I really like Ambry Thomas and Mosley, I don't think either of them have the upside to be a top 5 corner in the league. And we go up against, some of the best receivers in this division with DeAndre Hopkins and Metcalf and Kupp and all these guys. And then the Achilles heel for this defense, when the defense has been the reason why the 49ers have lost, which wasn't too many times, but it has happened a few times, namely NFC Championship game and against Green Bay Week 3. It was because we didn't have a corner that could just lock down a guy like Cooper Kupp, lock down a guy like Devontae Adams. So bringing in a guy like J.C. Jackson, where you could just put him on an island and just say, hey, you match up with Cooper Kupp, and or you match up with D-Hop, and your job is just to shadow him and shut him down, and everybody else plays around what J.C. Jackson's doing. I think that would be just phenomenal, especially because, the defensive line is going to be solid because we have Kosterick, and they're going to bring in talent, and talent's going to want to come here on 1-2 year deals just to be able to up their value in free agency the next year. But cornerback, I think, is a position that the 49ers have never splurged on, and it would be great to see them bring in a guy that, even though they might have to spend, top dollar for, he's still young enough. He's been able to stay healthy. I think that would be amazing to see, to just have a guy that you can just trust to lock down whomever the best receiver is on the opposing team's offense.
Yeah, that'd be sweet too. I probably would either go Stephon Gilmore personally more, because I think he's more of the better player in terms of, but that's only for if you want to go short term.
Right.
Long term, yeah, J.C. Jackson, just because he's younger. I would love Gilmore though. That would be my second one if I'm over here playing cheater right now. Yeah. In terms of I'm having a second one, because for exactly like you said, you got DK Metcalf, you got Tyler Lockett for the Seahawks, you got DeAndre Hopkins on the Cardinals, and then you have obviously Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're gonna have Odell back. They can't afford him, especially off a torn ACL. But still, that's a good array of receivers that always slice and dice them. And you have any other teams that you're gonna face. So having that corner that, like, hey, we're gonna put you by yourself, and we're gonna fluctuate to the other side. That's what Robert Saleh did with Jason Verrett, and that's why it opened up everything so much. So it was so cool to see Verrett actually be healthy and start performing like a top 10 corner again, top 15, which is phenomenal because. You said like Mosley doesn't have like top 5 corner. Well, I mean, who does have top 5 corner ability? They're very scarce. But I think Emmanuel Mosley can be a cornerback too on almost any team in the league, any team. So he's sweet. He's someone that you can trust, but maybe not necessarily leave on the island, but someone that, like, all right, we don't have too much concern with him. So you do get that J.C. Jackson, you do get that Gilmore back. Now all of a sudden you can start changing a whole bunch of things on coverage. You can start fluctuating to the other sides of the field. And there's a lot less worry, and that's why they really went from, in 2020 they went from a pass rushing scheming team to like, okay, now we're a blanketing coverage team who's gonna blitz a little more to generate pass rush. That's why I really loved Robert Saleh. I thought he was phenomenal, better in 2020 than 2019 because of what he did with that shutdown corner. And I can only imagine how DeMeco Ryans would operate if he has a corner he could really trust. I'm gonna put you in this receiver, I'm gonna put you in this side. I'm not gonna you're kind of gonna be by yourself more so than not. But that's how much trust I'm giving you. And so that playing corner is so tough, man. God, the fact you can have that trust and not get beat like that, that's saying a lot. But I really think that, like you said, that would be sweet to have that corner there. Just to, obviously cool. Now, less of a worry when we face our divisional teams, especially the Seahawks. They always whoop our ass every year. So finally, now we can start taking it to them with the corner and hopefully slow them up.
For sure. So we could dream, man. Hey, if we get Chandler Jones or any of those cornerbacks, whether
it be either, it doesn't matter.
Jackson or Billy
right
Lock,
there.
It would be nice to have some superstar power just come in. But yeah, great show once again, Jose. You always bring it when you're on my channel. Let the fans know what you got going on, what articles you got going on, and where they could catch you these next few weeks.
Yeah, today I got an article about a release. Once you send me this video, I'll plug it into with it about whether the 49ers, if they should be viewed as failures for cutting Garoppolo, since like I said, trading him was a goal and accumulating more draft capital, especially since they're kind of thin on the really top dollar draft capital. And then I also wrote something quick up. I saw Amari Cooper is going to get cut most likely.
Yep.
Kind of played to the idea. Hey, is he someone of the 49ers should pursue? You're going to have some money there. Maybe we just talked about, Trey Lance, who can you help boost for him in an offense and the team overall. And that's someone that you wouldn't mind, one of the cleaner route runners in the game for sure. Top 8 route runner. Yeah. Little something you can cook up with. Imagine him with Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, that'd be cool, but probably not.
Nah, it's not happening.
Probably not. Awesome. Well, Jose, thank you so much for taking the time, man. Everybody in the comment section, you guys really are always excellent. Thank you so much for tuning in and being so active in the comment section. Guys, it's Friday. We made it. Have a very, very safe weekend. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and we'll be back next week with all the talk that you need. Have a great weekend, guys.